Hat Summit, and we have with us Red Hat CTO Chris. Now you're CTO. So first of all, tell us, what's the role of CTO at a tech company like Red Hat?
My role is about technology strategy. So making sure that as a company, we're paying attention to the emerging technology trends and emerging markets that are potentially relevant to Red Hat, whether that's an opportunity or a threat, whatever's going on. A lot of this would be technology that's happening in open source. Open source is what I like to call the innovation engine for the industry. And so we are a part of all these open source communities. It's about monitoring activity, finding where there's emerging, exciting technology trends, and then understanding how that has an impact on our kind of products and product roadmap and overall kind of direction.
If you look at today, when you talk about emerging tech, so much is changing at such a fast pace. So how do you there are new buzzwords popping up, whether it's serverless or whatever, how do you keep up with that?
Well, it's a team effort, right? It's certainly not just me.
Oh, I thought you had some crystal ball where you look at it, okay, this is...
The crystal ball is visibility into all the people who are giving me all the information. No, it's a team effort, so we work together. It's not just me, it's not just my team, it's really, we aggregate information from Red Hat at large, and certainly Red Hatters are across a lot of different communities. So we're getting a lot of visibility into what's going on, and I think it's relatively easy to find things that are emerging and changing rapidly. It's a different question of where are the healthy projects and what are the intersection points into our product world. And so we spend more of our time there. I mean, not that it's trivial to find out what's going on, but we kind of have our finger on the pulse as a company. So we spend our time really looking at one level deeper. What are the projects? What are they up to? There's any of these emerging spaces tend to have multiple projects working in kind of overlapping spaces. And so we want to find the ones that are really going to withstand the test of time and be there for the long term, because what part of what we do is find those key projects and then help our enterprise customers make use of them in a kind of reliable, consumable way. So open source has a lot of tumult or change, and we can help buffer some of that by observing and participating and influencing and then getting the right projects into our product view and then into our customers.
So what are the trends that you see are happening from Red Hat's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, a huge one certainly is machine learning. So it's big. There's a big hype cycle associated with it. So part of what we also do is try to distill fact from fiction. We're also working in blockchain. There's a lot of work just in and around containers and Kubernetes, some of which are not as far out. So something like Istio is a very concrete project. It exists today. We're actively involved in that, and we're looking at how we can bring that into our OpenShift platform so that we can help developers build microservices more easily. So container applications and stuff that augments that is of interest. Areas that we're focused on, helping flesh out a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud story. So it's really about application portability, not just can I deploy here or there, but maybe both and what does the connectivity look like, and what does storage look like, and messaging across those different infrastructures. So I'd say that's an area of interest. We pay attention to IoT. I call that more of an emerging market than technology, set of use cases, many of which are utilizing technology that we already have. So it's looking at that end-to-end solution from a device through some edge and edge gateway and application processing that happens there, and then maybe some aggregation and deeper analytics that might happen in a cloud environment. We spend a lot of time in the NFV and telco space looking at how that whole market is shifting to be fundamentally software driven, which has been pretty interesting, and a lot of work going on in preparation for 5G. And then associated with 5G, you've got some potential for edge computing, and then bringing it full circle back to machine learning and a little bit of the IoT bit with devices and 5G giving you a lot of bandwidth. I mean, there's a lot of content that's flowing through the network, and there's an opportunity for machine learning that sits right at the edge of the network. So a bunch of different things that we see as interesting, and I think the ones that are really poised to have a huge impact, at the top of the list, I'd put machine learning.
So from Red Hat's perspective, Red Hat is not going to offer a machine learning framework platform. So where does machine learning fit into Red Hat's,
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, we think of it as it's a workload. So we have to make sure our platforms support that workload, not just support it, but really think about optimized machine learning environments. At the bottom of the stack, that's about hardware enablement. So getting GPUs fired up and accessible through virtual machines or containers to applications. That might sound trivial, but it's a lot of work. And so making sure we get just that platform level capability of supporting a hardware accelerated optimized runtime environment for machine learning workloads. Some tool chain work as well, so making sure the low-level math libraries can take advantage of those same environments. And then as you get up from the bottom of the stack, there's a lot more choice in terms of which tooling, which platforms, which libraries are useful. And there we're spending time internally looking at those, and we've worked in a community that we've built called RAD Analytics. We've worked with Spark on top of Kubernetes. We worked with TensorFlow on top of Kubernetes. And we're looking at not just which frameworks and libraries are useful, but what does a workflow look like for data scientists and application developer to work together to build applications that take advantage of machine learning. So those are a couple of areas that I think are really important to us, and areas that we're putting some of our effort into. And then we also are internal users.
Right.
So we use machine learning internally, back office environments. We have data scientists, just like any of our customers do. And we're also building it into some of our products. So
can you give examples, like where you're using internally?
Oh, it could be as simple as within support. We have the ability to sift through a huge amount of our internal support data and help our support engineers find patterns. And we do some translations with natural language processing tools. Things that aren't that unusual for other industry segments. Marketing, there's a lot of data that's gathered in marketing and market intelligence that you can create from using machine learning. So, what I'd call back office, and then within our products, how do we help improve our products with machine learning kind of built inside? So not necessarily accessible to the user. It's more augmenting how the platform is operating, or in the case of our Access Insights, that is using a lot of data that we're gathering from many users about our platforms and aggregating and sifting through that and looking for patterns, and then giving recommendations back to operations teams to optimize and improve and help them run their infrastructure.
So 5 years from now, when we come to Red Hat Summit, you'll be scanning everybody's faces, and there'll be name of every face on a big giant screen in your office. You'll be saying, oh, that's Swapnil Bhartiya is walking in there. He's going to eat food, right? That's all the machine learning and deep learning capabilities, maybe.
That's probably there today already. I mean,
oh, it's already there? Okay, so who has that screen, that big giant screen? Jim has, or do you have it?
We don't have it literally there, but technology's there. We did a demo in one of our internal conferences in Asia that included some video surveillance and image recognition, and it was really pretty sophisticated.
It is.
It wasn't our image recognition tooling.
Yeah, I read a lot of stories about China, how they use cameras and CCTVs they can find anybody in the crowd in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There's some stories there, on the first day keynote day, Jim also talked about, and I also did a story, a business decision manager, because that is something that could be seen as a good use case for machine learning. So these are the very using.
We have that's sort of built out of a platform. The upstream project is called Jules. We have a business process and business rules management system that comes out of that, and in there, the ability to apply rules that are not just expert rules, but even supervised learning kind of rules, and maybe eventually you get some unsupervised learning as part of that process. You could see that tool evolving in that direction.
So as a CTO whose job is to keep an eye on where the hockey puck is going to be and not where it is, do you also watch Black Mirror?
I do, actually, yeah. I'm not an avid Black Mirror watcher, so I haven't watched all the episodes. In fact, I found a website that ranked them in order of the best ones, so I've been watching
Which is the best one that you liked?
Well, it was Season 4, episode 1 is the one I started with. So
Season 1?
Season 4, episode 1.
That was your favorite one?
It's the one I started with. So I'm just getting
What
into
was the story about?
Well, I won't be able to tell you in detail because here's what happened. I started it and I was just about to have to board a plane, and then
right. I actually binge watched the whole series when I was going to DockerCon, and as a tech journalist, sometime I was really kind of amazed that this is what can happen. So I also worry that since you have been part of open source community for a long time, and that we are living in this age where we are surrounded by the tech marvel at the same time because of bad business practices. We are also kind of moving in a phase where we will be living in a surveillance state. So does it worry you? Somebody who's coming from open source world, at the same time you're working with a company like Red Hat, which tries to do a good thing,
Right.
So what do you think,
Well, I mean, there's a
How
lot
can
of...
we maintain the balance?
It's not unique to now. There's a long history of the tension of technology, powerful technology, being useful in really positive ways and also capable of having really negative impact on humanity. So I think we always have to look at how are we responsible with technology development. And there's an interesting project that I'm Red Hat's not a member of, but I'm a supporter of the concept. It's called, I think, Partnership for AI, and it's really trying to understand what are some of the social implications behind machines, machine learning, and data collection. There's some potential real negative ways that technology could be used, and the implicit biases that can enter into models that we then assume are unbiased because they're generated by a machine.
Right.
And so, sifting through that, I think is really important in understanding the potential impacts, the social impacts of technology that we invent is really important. And we're in a world now where a lot of this work is around automation and balancing automation with freeing up time to do other work with automation that's sort of eliminating work. There's some other interesting social challenges there. So I think it's really important that we think about that. And it's what I like about open source is at least the whole technology development process is open, collaborative, visible, transparent. But it doesn't mean that the technology that we create couldn't be used in positive or negative ways. And
right.
There's this challenge with technology creation.
When you do mention like machine learning and some of these frameworks and they're open source, but the real thing is data sets and what. So
Yes.
It doesn't really. When we look back at good old open source days, where you had total control from A to Z, but
That's
here,
right.
So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's a great example of where's the tension in what we're building and how it's used positively or negatively. The open source development process creates technology that we understand, we know how to use it, it's code. That code may not be very useful without the data that's creating the data model. And so now we've shifted that value from the code itself to the data. And there's an interesting question about what data should be open, accessible, especially when it's your data, that you've signed some kind of agreement to give it to some service provider. And I think a future vision that I'd like to see is I still retain a lot of control over my data, who has access to it, how it gets used. So you could imagine that there's a technology solution embedded in that problem. But I think first we have to recognize more at an industry level what it means to have all this value in data. And from an open source project point of view, we're going to keep building the technology, but it is true that some of that technology by itself is less useful without the data, which is providing a lot of the real value.
So we, despite all this, success of open source, we may once again go back to the same phase where we lost control and the open source movement started kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
There's some balance in there. It's not all doomsday, but there's absolutely a world or a portion of the world where the data is critical, and how we get access to it and how we share it is important. And I know certain portions of the industry are more apt to share data than others.
Right.
So as an example, we're working with a project associated with Boston University and the Massachusetts Open Cloud, where they collect a lot of data sets for experimental data sets across different disciplines, and looking at how you can share those data sets with other scientists. So it's not just, can I recreate this experiment, but can I validate those results with that data set? It's a really interesting way to look at it, and hopefully we can learn some of the governance tooling and policy management tooling needs from that space, and then make those available in other environments as well.
Yeah, I talked to Dr. Grant yesterday. Yeah,
Oh, great.
Yeah, there was a lot of great work going on there.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So that gives us hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we cover, some basic topics to understand the role of CTO, and also good to see that you love science fiction, and and also great to see, your own evolution, as an open source, and then CTO of Red Hat. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
I really
thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it. Thank you.
Good to talk to you again.